Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We're having a special program today all about school registration, something that's been thrown into a bit of a tailspin as far as dates go because of the snow we've had in the past week or so, but we're going to give you lots of information about it. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen lying around, go grab it if you've got a child to register in school, because we're going to be giving you some very important information that will affect you and your children very directly. We're very happy to have with us today Prudence Buckley. Prudence, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're here from the Information Center for the Brockton Public School Registration. Now, can you tell me when that was created and how long it's been around?
Certainly. The School Registration and Parent Information Center was opened on November 5th of 1995. Actually, November 1st, I should say. And this came about because the Brockton Public School wanted to do a couple of things. One, we wanted to centralize our registration process for grades 1 through 8. Mm-hmm. And the second and more important part here is we had to implement the Brockton's long-range voluntary desegregation and educational equity plan, which was accepted by the school committee in March of 1995.
Yes, I think most people are familiar at least with that in name. Maybe not everyone understands all of the details about it, but it really is so important to know that that does exist and that you're serving the purpose to help make it easier for people to understand also. Now, where is the School Registration Center located?
The School Registration Center is located at 36 Main Street, India. That is between the Brockton Enterprise Building and Continental Cable. We're on the 4th floor. The housing court is on the bottom floor, and the senior center is our neighbors on the 3rd floor. And we occupy the 4th floor of that building.
Now, if someone didn't quite get that location this time around in this program, how are you listed in the telephone directory so people can look you up?
Well, anyone that would be interested in calling the School Registration Center could call the Brockton Public Schools, and they would be connected directly with the School Registration Center.
Perfect. Is there staff there who can help people who may not have English as a first language?
Yes, actually our staff, we have a very diverse staff. We have the capability to help people in many languages. We have on site, we have someone who speaks Haitian Creole, French, Portuguese, and Spanish.
Isn't it wonderful to know our community is so diverse? I think it's exciting to be in the grocery store and hear all of those languages. It really makes Brockton a great place to be and gives our children an even greater opportunity to experience other cultures. So I think it's absolutely wonderful. Now, how many grades are registered through your center?
We register grades 1 through 8, Andrea, at the School Registration Center.
All right.
The kindergarten children continue to register at their individual kindergarten centers. If someone was not familiar which of the 3 centers they would go to, they could call the School Registration Center and we could direct them to the kindergarten which is nearest to their home. And that would allow them to register there.
Okay, so you do 1 through 8, and
That's
the reason
correct.
this is so important is because previously registration has occurred at the individual schools. Is that right?
Yes, prior to this plan, the centralized registration process, all of those registrations took place at the individual schools. And we had all 16 of our elementary schools and our 4 junior high schools registering students on a daily basis. This centralized process develops more uniformity and allows us to take a better look at the registrations and keep track of those.
I was going to say the record keeping must be a little bit easier that way when
Yes,
you have one way of doing it. Now, how about the high school kids?
The high school children will register at Brockton High School. They call there or they go to the high school and they are registered through their guidance department at Brockton High.
Okay. What does a parent need to bring with them to register their child for the 1 through 8 grades?
If a parent is new to the city and it's the first time they have been in the Brockton Public School system, they'll need a few things. First of all, they'll need a transfer slip if they have left a Massachusetts school. They'll need a transfer card. Along with that, they'll need the child's immunization record.
And that's so important too.
Exactly. And Brockton does require a TB test, which is not the same in all cities and towns, but we do require that in Brockton. The parents will also need to bring with them a copy of the child's birth certificate and a proof of residency. The proof of residency could be something that they have a phone work order, or they would have their lease agreement, or they may have a work order from the Edison company, or if they've had their driver's license changed, they need to have the address on the front, though, in order to determine use that as a proof of residency.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's pretty easy to get. So your immunization, your transfer, and something like a utility bill or something that states your legal place of address.
And the copy of the birth certificate.
And the birth certificate.
Correct.
Okay. And if they're lacking the TB test that Brockton requires, they can just visit a doctor?
Well, that's correct. Also, our Board of Health, our in the basement of the City Hall, does provide that service free of charge Mondays and Fridays from 2 to 4. So parents can have their child have a TB test there, free of charge.
That's great. Boy, you learn something new every day. I'm learning a lot of new things, and I hope everybody out there is writing this down because, again, it's so important. If you have just joined us, we're talking about school registration with Prudence Buckley and where people can register their children for school, because the system's a little bit different, especially if you're a new parent in town. You're going to need to know where to take your child to register. Now, if a parent is working 9 to 5 hours and can't get downtown during daytime regular working hours, is there a way that they can register after hours?
Yes, for someone new to the city, certainly we have evening hours, and we feel that's very important for our families. On Wednesday evening, the center is open from 5 to 7:30. During the registration, the two entry-level registration processes, which are grade 1 and grade 7, we have extended hours and weekend hours for those parents, which we'll talk about.
Great. Now, are you open all year long? Curious.
Yes, we are. We're open throughout the summer, and many parents don't know that and didn't realize that they can register if they move into the city or if they've transferred or moved within the city. They can re-register their child down at the school registration center.
Okay, that's
And I should correct one thing, Andrea. The information about the immunization and the proof of residency birth certificate, that would be only for those families that are new to the city. If a child is transferring within the city from one school to another because the family has perhaps moved, they do not need those documents. What they would need would be a transfer card from the school that they have checked out of.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up, because that is important. You don't want to make somebody go at a little extra work than they have to do, because everybody's busy, and certainly busy who have children also. Now, during the year, School Registration Center holds registration periods for 2 entry-level grades following the desegregation and educational equity plan. Which 2 grades are involved in this process?
Children going from kindergarten to first grade. First grade is our first year, our entry year, and also children going from 6th grade into 7th grade. 7th grade being the second of the 2 entry years.
Okay, so children who are going to take grade 1 in public school systems need to be registered.
That's correct.
All right. How do parents hear about the registration process, other than through formats like this and in the newspaper? Where else would they be hearing about registration?
Actually, we've gone to great lengths. The School Registration Center has to inform parents about this process. We've mailed home registration forms for every parent. We've also sent those registration forms home with their children. We've advertised in the papers. We've contacted the Continental Cable. We've BCCT. All of the media outlets, the radio stations, have been very helpful in notifying parents about the registration process.
Okay.
We also, after the first week, in order to encourage parents to have a timely registration, we phone call every parent that has yet to register their child and encourage them to come down so that they too can make some school choices and have a timely registration.
Wow, that's a big job. You must need some volunteers down there. Now, if a child is attending private kindergarten, but it will not be attending a public school first grade, what do they need to do to register?
Well, if they're attending a private kindergarten, and they will be attending the public school kindergarten, these children will have to complete a full registration. Okay,
so they'll get the same kind of registration form in the mail as public kindergarten
No,
children.
they will not get the form in the mail. Only the public school, and that is a question that parents have asked continually. Where is my form? I did not receive one in the mail. Only those children in the public kindergartens receive an actual form, because we have the data on these children. They have already completed the registration process for kindergarten. It is the private school children that we do not have that information, and therefore those parents need to come down to school registration and complete the full registration. And once again, they would need the the immunization record, the proof of residency, the birth certificate of the child.
Gotcha. So parents of children who are in private kindergarten, remember, you will not have received a form in the mail, and it's very important to contact the registration center to either get that form or give them a call, and they'll give you instructions on how to register your child in the first grade. Now, if a parent does not get his or her first choice in school, what happens next? What's the waiting list?
Okay. What we have done, we've set up an opportunity. If parents do not get their first choice, they are automatically placed on a waiting list for their first choice. If we were not able to give parents a first, second, or third choice, then those parents are placed on their first and second choices wait list. That's established by a lottery process. And we have a public lottery, and that will be on May 14th at 7 p.m., and parents are welcome to come. We have all of the children who have registered go into a receptacle, and then names are pulled out and placed on a board so that parents can find out what number they hold in this waitlist process.
Literally a lottery.
That's exactly
Okay.
correct. Yes, it is.
Now, do you have in your head any idea how many people that actually is who do not get their first choice?
Well, last year, Andrea, grade 1, 89% of parents who registered on time received their first choice. And that would be out of 1,189 parents, 1,013. This year we had about an 83% success rate, parents receiving their first choice. Over 1,000 parents did receive their first choice. The kindergarten centers were the 3 buildings that were oversubscribed. In other words, more children, more parents selected the kindergarten centers for their first grade classrooms. And I think that's natural because they've already formed a bond with that school. Sometimes their car automatically goes to one of the kindergarten centers, and they're comfortable there. But those folks, therefore, some of those may have had to take a second or third choice.
Well, and that, I guess that also shows how Brockton is growing.
That's correct.
And isn't it wonderful that we're
Yes, it
growing?
is.
Looking forward to having those new schools coming in, too. Now, if someone wanted to appeal this process, what would they need to do?
The appeal process is there for parents. We hold the appeal process after the lottery process because many times children go right from the wait list into the school of their first choice without much delay because of the fact that right now, Andrea, all children in kindergarten are registered for first grade. Not all of those children will actually, in fact, go on to first grade. We also have some children who may be repeating the kindergarten, or I mean, we have children that may, it was indicated or projected they may repeat first grade. However, they may not repeat first grade and they may go on to second grade. We've asked schools to do the impossible, to project in January.
Call it rise to the occasion.
That's right. And it's in some ways it's unfair because you don't want to prejudge a child too early in the school year. So we asked them in January to just give us an idea if they have any inkling of which children may actually in fact have to repeat. But that isn't always the case, and then therefore that creates seats. By the time we have our lottery on May 14th, many of those seats we then know are available, and so children then are placed into those seats.
Okay. Well, right now, 7th grade registration process is underway. Do parents have to complete the registration form even though their children have been in the system already for their first 6 years?
Yes, and that is very, very important, and it's something that I'm glad we have a chance to talk about today. All 6th grade children who will be going on to the 7th grade in the Brockton Public Schools must complete the registration process. If you were in our 6th grade, you received a form, and that form gave you your school choices and you made your selections. Parents are dropping them off daily at our center at 36 Main Street, also at the sites that we've established at the 4 junior high sites.
Okay. When did this process begin?
March 31st.
March 31st.
Yes,
okay.
so it began March 31st, and it was scheduled to run from March 31st until Saturday, April 12th. We have evening hours for parents. We're open till 6:30 Monday through Thursday, and to 7:30 on Wednesday night. Also on Saturdays from 9 till noon. Friday we do close at 4:30, So that's the only exception that we have. But Saturdays, once again, 9 to noon for those parents who find themselves unable to make it down during the week.
Okay, now has the April 12th date been extended because of the snow period?
Yes, it has. We've extended 3 days until April 16th. Parents will have a chance that they'll have the full daytime and the evening hours to register their children for 7th grade.
Now, tell us what choices a parent would have if their child is going into 7th grade next year. How is it different from last year's process?
Last year's process gave parents an opportunity to choose either of the 2 junior high schools within their zone. The plan divides the city up into 2 separate school zones, a north zone and a south zone. And parents had an opportunity to choose the 2 junior high schools within their zone and the junior high in the other zone, which is closest to their home. That made it very confusing for many parents and also for some school personnel as well.
They don't quite know where to draw the line.
Exactly where the line was and which junior high is would my residence be closer to. So the school committee voted to accept a change in that process. We've given parents more choice. They can choose any of the 4 junior high schools. However, the transportation would be limited only to the zone in which the child resides and only within the established guidelines for transportation, the school committee guidelines.
Otherwise, a parent would be responsible for getting their child to that school.
That's correct. If you were a parent and you were living in the south zone and you selected a north zone school, let's use North Junior High School for example, then you certainly may select North Junior High School, but you would be responsible for the transportation.
Okay, so the 2-mile distance rule is more or less in effect or not in effect?
It is in effect for within the zone. If you are on one side of the zone and you select the school on the other side, if you're beyond 2 miles and you're in the south zone, the 2 south zone schools are East Junior High School and South Junior High School. The 2 North Junior High schools are North Junior High and West Junior High.
Okay.
If you are 2 miles apart from your residence to the school, then you are eligible for transportation.
Okay. Now, we already know that parents of 6th graders need to go down to 36 Main to register. How about parents of children who may be currently attending private schools or parochial schools for grade 6, but will be going to public schools for junior high?
Okay. The parents of 6th graders in our public school may drop off their forms at our school registration center, but they also may drop their forms off during the specified hours, which are on the back of their actual registration form at the 4 junior high schools, from 9:30 to 10:30 and from 12:30 to 1:30 at each junior high. If a parent lives closer to a junior high, someone from our school registration center will be there to receive their form, to check it for them, and for them to sign in on our log sheet. Parents of private school students, once again, they must come into the 36 Main Street location in order to complete that full registration, because we do not have any information about those children, and they need to provide us with their documentation, the birth certificate, the immunization record, the proof of residency, and their transfer card.
Okay, got it. When will parents be notified about where their child will be placed in school?
Okay. The letters have already gone out for the 1st grade registration, and as we're receiving additional, I say late, I don't mean late in the sense some folks have moved or changed their addresses or whatever, and then there are others who are coming down now that are late, but or folks moving into the city now will complete registration for grade 1. Most of the families, or all the families that we have already registered, have received grade 1. Grade 7, once this process is finished on the 16th, we will analyze that data and we will make the assignments based on the parent choices, of course. And parents present that information, first of all, to the school committee, and if they accept the report, the parents should know by the end of May.
Okay, so they don't have to wait all the way through the summertime.
No, they don't.
If you've just joined us, we've been talking about school registration and how important it is for parents to know how to register their kindergarten-age children, their 1st graders, their 7th graders. And it's not just for new people in town, it's for people who have lived here for some time too, because things are a little bit different now than they were in the past. And before we wrap this up, Prudence, can you just tell me what benefits there are of the school desegregation and equity plan before we close up?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. This plan has given us an opportunity to do many things. First of all, we've had a chance to improve the diversity within our schools. We've been able to also, very importantly, distribute our children in a more equitable fashion. We do not have the large numbers of children in one school and then maybe just a short distance away have classrooms half that size going at another school. We have our grade 1 classrooms are all 26 or fewer children. Our grade 2 through 6 are a suggested maximum of 28, and none of those classrooms are beyond that 28.
And so that answers the question of every parent, but is my child going to be better educated then?
That's exactly correct. And also, and I think it's one of the most important, it gives parents a choice. It gives them a voice in their child's school selection, and we feel that's very, very important. Parents feel more responsible for this, and they've come down to make informed choices. We've had parents come to the school registration center, review where we have booklets. Each school has provided a 3-ring binder of information about their school. We also have pamphlets, and parents have been able to review that and make informed decisions for their children.
And that's what it's all about, having the information, and there's a lot of information that you do need. So stop by at 36 Main Street or pick up the telephone and call the public school systems, and they'll put you in touch with Prudence and the office and the people down there who will be happy to answer any of the questions that you have. And I hope that we've been able to answer a lot of your questions out there. Prudence, thanks again.
Thank you
very much, and glad we don't have to be doing any more shoveling. That'll put a hitch in registration for the rest of the year.
That's correct. Thank you.
How about the helpline? Tell us a little bit about what the helpline is.
Well, the helpline is a generic information referral program. It's sponsored by the Brockton Area Multi-Services Incorporated, and we've been in Brockton for about 22 years now.
What types of services do you provide or offer to clients who might call? And I understand our chat beforehand, you get about 30,000 calls a year. And what are some of those calls involved?
Well, we get calls for our teen line. We get calls regarding the food stamp program. And we also have a program that helps prevent families from becoming homeless. We have a loan closet where we loan out durable medical equipment like hospital beds, crutches, commodes, wheelchairs, free of charge. But the vast majority of calls are from the public who are just looking to find an agency that can answer their question or resolve their problem. Could be a call on Meals on Wheels, or it could be from a mother who has a child who's not doing well in school looking for some resources. It could be from a parent looking for after-school programs for their kids.
Tell us briefly a little bit about Teen Line and the importance of that group and organization.
Well, about 5 years ago, a staff member came to me and said, you know, we have a generic information referral program, and adults call, professionals call if they have a question or a problem, and they wanted to see if they could do the same thing for the high-risk adolescent in the community. And so we recruited several high school students and college students, and we began to brainstorm about the types of issues and problems that kids have today. And we developed a manual. We started training high school students. We work very closely with Brockton High School. They have a wonderful peer leadership program that is headed up by Celeste Ignacio. And we started recruiting peer leaders from the high school to answer the telephones.
We get all sorts of calls like, I don't know what I'm gonna do about my boyfriend's beating me, or pregnancy, I'm pregnant, I don't know what to do. I might be fearful that I have AIDS.
Terrell is one of several volunteers at the Teen Line, a hotline where young people can call and get advice from people their own age.
They find that it's easier talking to a teen. Like, they understand where you're coming from.
When they're talking to us, that is strictly confidential between me and you and nobody else, no adults, no parents, no doctors, no nothing.
These volunteers don't have degrees or a lot of life experience, so what makes them qualified to dole out advice? Common sense and training on everything from birth control and AIDS to violence and drugs.
And you have peer pressure that's pulling you into bad ways, so then you may end up slipping a couple of times, but then you have to come back.
And that's exactly what Hotline volunteers encourage.
They take their advice and they run with it, and it's their choice if they want to take it or not. And most of the time they do take it, and the situation seems to turn out better than if they didn't take my advice. So
I think that the role that the helpline plays in this community is, number one, developing a resource directory that all social service and healthcare providers can use. We got calls from 175 different agencies last year. It would have been 17,000 calls from different agencies looking for resources. Now they can go to the directory and find the resources they need for their clients.
This book generally gives us a focal point for almost every problem that can come up, whether it be fuel assistance in the winter, an elderly person that needs transportation or immediate care, just elderly hotlines, people to talk to, things that the elderly particularly need. It's right at our fingertips.
They might be looking for housing, for financial assistance. They may be out of food. They're looking to know what the resources are in the community, where the food pantries are. I would say in the early 1980s, we began to see a larger number of single women, single mothers, turning to us because they were on the verge of becoming homeless. And so we established the first housing or homeless advocacy program with funding from the Department of Social Services. It was a model program that went on to be replicated statewide. And what the focus of that program was to prevent families from becoming homeless, to find out what the issues were, and to find the resources to keep that family in their housing. In addition to the homeless program that we run, we also have a food stamp program where we cover 87 cities and towns, and we reach out to the newly unemployed, the working poor, the linguistic minorities, and the elderly.
A lot of the elderly don't want to go to the Brockton DTA office. Normally they'd have to go do a face-to-face interview, then go down and get a picture ID. But now that we have the waiver from the Brockton DTA, they don't have to go to welfare office at all, and that helped remove some of the barriers they had to applying.
In addition to that, we have a loan closet where we loan out durable medical equipment.
40 years ago, where communities were inbred over periods of years, there was always a family. There was always an uncle, there was always an aunt, there was always a son or a daughter. That doesn't happen anymore. Communities are too flexible and too mobile. So there are people that don't have people to fall back on, particularly in some of our new immigrants and particularly with the elderly.
But now there is. The Brockton Area Helpline at 584-HELP. 584-HELP.
Math, a four-letter word, right? Hey, you don't need that. Why design the world's newest chips? When you could be flipping the world's oldest burgers. Hey, wait a minute. This is math. Geometry, algebra. No pocket protectors here. But you're cruising without math. Yeah, right. Take a good look. That's math staring back at you. It's not a problem, man. It's an answer. Call NACME. We'll tell you what you need to do.